bit of an eerie sky here in Destin, Florida that's scheduled to rain day and night. Monday, 69 degrees. Oy vey. Get over here. Arkansas tie. Big white truck. I know somebody with a big white truck. Doesn't look like him though. See my friends at the store today. Poor things, they get so abused from the tourists. I don't know how they do it. I could have slept in today because it was raining. Best time to try to sleep in. I couldn't sleep. But I mean, it was a good temperature today because lately it's been way too hot. And I get scared that I'm not going to wake up. I think I had a stroke the other night. Stroke or heart attack because I had a bloody nose in the morning. That's not good. Boondogger life is just not for me. I still work every day. Gotta work every day. No one can fix it but me. Everybody's hiring everywhere. Pay's exceptionally good in Destin. Talking to a boondocker friend of mine that has a bunch of animals with him. And when I met him, he was real bitter because he said we get tired of the people telling us that we shouldn't have the animals. He says that pisses me off because my animals are my life. And so we had a chat last night. And I told him, I said, I don't know what you're going to do. One, you came to Destin, Florida from way up north, and you brought all those animals, and one, you could never afford to live in Destin. I know because you're boondocking in your cars. And he's like, well, and I said, I'm telling you. The rent right now will be $3,000 to $5,000. You can't afford that. It would be better off to relocate to another place. It's cheaper. You pick the most expensive place. I said, well, came here about 3 or 4 years ago, went to the beach and just had the most wonderful time. And so that's why we picked it. And I'm like, yeah, this is not a wonderful time. You're boondocking in your car with a whole bunch of animals, and then trying to do DoorDash and all that. And I say, that it's just you have to think about where it's at. I mean, first of all, he's like, yeah, money's hard to come by, and I said, well, here's your first problem, is you got to feed all those animals. And I said, they have shelters, in the Fort Walton area, and I mean, Dustin Commons, just about every day they bring animals down to the mall in like 40 cages for people to adopt. They're not selling them, they're letting people adopt them out, and they just pay a small fee. I think it's 40 or 50 bucks. It might be less than that. It just kind of covers their shots and stuff. But they do it constant, all year round. And they've got a great shelter in the Fort Walton Beach area out by Mary Esther. That's a volunteer shelter. It's not supported by the city nor the government. And they don't kill the animals. They get them adopted out. So I told him, I said, he's got like, I don't know, 5 or 6 animals with him. And I said, one, you got to sleep with all that. 2, you just don't have the accommodations for it. I mean, I don't know how you're doing it. And he's got a spot smaller than my cars. But I said, and then you got to feed them all. That's not counting vet bills, which you can bet they're not doing any vet stuff. But and I said, I mean, I don't know how you eat. He said, well, I have a budget of $3 a day. I have 3 $1 burritos, which means it's going to Taco Bell. That's terrible. I said, well, that's all the more reason you need to cut back on these animals, because you can't feed yourself. I mean, it's not hard to figure out. You need to learn how to look from the outside going in and why people think what they do about you because of, having all those animals and all that. And I said, you're not thinking from the outside of the deal. It's just like a story. It has 3 parts to the story. You got one part, and the one in between. So the sheriffs are already down on the beach. Sure are. But, and he's like, wow, he's starting to understand. And I said, look, start cutting those animals loose one by one to that really good place in Fort Walton. Because, one, you're not going to be able to rent nothing. Especially with all those animals. You're talking $1,000 animals payment before you even move in, and then your deposits and everything for rent, and then a monthly fee to have all those animals. And if any of them exceed the weight limit, which is usually around 30 pounds for rental properties, then you're done. So I think he's got like 3 dogs and 3 cats or something. And he's like, well, I didn't. He said, I am kind of bony, And I said, yeah, you look sick. And I imagine it's from not eating, because you don't act like you're on drugs. And I said, and that's no way to live. And he said, well, I think you're right. I said, yes, I am right. You want to come to Destin, you think you're going to move to Destin, it's not happening. Because you don't make that kind of money. And Destin is a retirement place for older people that have money that don't work anymore. And that's why it's like that. It's just a tourist trap all year round, expensive place, and people can't afford to live there. Most people. So, yeah. That's like saying, hey, I want to go to Miami, or hey, I want to go to Orlando to go to Disneyland. They're tourist places. So I don't know what exactly he's going to do. The bad part was he was walking the animals and not picking up the poo-poos. And I said, dude, you can go to jail for that crap. And you're doing it in a mall. This is a business place. They have video cameras. And he's like, well, I didn't know that. I'm like, yeah. I said, it's a law in most places, but I think it was made law like 2012 or something in Florida. It's a neat law because I will tell you, when I had my house over here, some dumb butt, their big giant dog, poopied by my patio, and I walked in it. And I was not happy about that. But they do have a law about it, and it's, all the more reason why. But, so he's thinking about it, and then him and his girl are having some problems, but, he was like, well, she says this, says this, says this. I says, you're liable if anything happens to her. I said, you're supposed to report that stuff. Well, I said, look, you can say whatever you want, but if something really bad happens and you wake up to a dead person, you're going to have a hell of a time explaining to law enforcement that you didn't kill that person. And he's like, well, she's supposed to take this chemical. I said, well, then she needs to take the chemical. And I said, and if she doesn't like the chemical, then she needs to go back to the doctors and tell them to give her a different one. There's a big problem. I have a friend of mine that's a doctor, and handles a lot of that kind of stuff. And he told me that when people are prescribed stuff like that, there's a reason for it. And if they don't take it, I think he told me it was like 30 days or something that they have to take it for it to settle in properly. And I don't know why this guy wants to tailgate me. He must be from out of state, because this is 25 miles an hour right here. Signs everywhere until we get out here. But yeah, and so he was telling me something about that body has to get used to the chemical, and they just really at least need to wait like that 30 or 45 day thing before deciding it's no good. And then, if it isn't any good, then they just switch you on something else. And the guy had told me what she was supposed to be taking, and I said, well, I've known a lot of people that took that stuff and were required to, but a lot of people like to get off it for the mania. They'll stop taking it just to try to be normal for a minute, and bad things happen. They really don't need to stop taking that stuff for a little while and then go back. It takes too long to make it work again, but and can be very, very dangerous. But I said, well, then she needs to take it. He's like, God, I wish you'd talk to her. And I said, well, here's the problem. I'm not a doctor. I got 5 college degrees, and none of them are doctor. Not any of them. And my last 3 are ME, and that doesn't mean I'm a doctor. They're engineering, but this is. I told him, I said, look, I think one of the largest mistakes I made for having a good heart was being with Bill West. Now, I love Bill West. He was great fun, the neatest thing since a piece of candy. Taught me so much and really helped me in my life physically with lifting weights and everything. He taught me how to lift weights and train other people and stuff. And taught me how to lose weight without having to take any drugs or going to doctors or any of that. just by pumping iron and, you know, leading a better life, eating properly and all that stuff. And he was just a really neat person and a funny character, always entertaining, and a really loving individual. But he had problems that existed before I came along. And he, you know, was a party drug user for a lot of his younger years, and all the weightlifters would get together, do incredible workouts by taking wild and crazy drugs and do Hercules effects, you know. And he got off the drugs because somebody told him, God, you know, if you could get on the alcohol, it'd be so much better than the drugs. And so he did, which was really bad, because then he was an alcoholic. And he was a serious alcoholic. Like, he would buy 2 big bottles of whatever whiskey, usually vodka, and then like 12 martinis in the can, and then put all those down his throat in about 15 minutes, and then he was just a zombie. And it was really strange. He was a serious addict, and then he would do crazy stuff and then end up in LA County Jail. That was a common occurrence. And I'll never forget the day that Arnold Schwarzenegger was walking by with his backpack and asked me if I was okay, because Bill just got done knocking down a fence next to the gym, and there was about 10 cops out there, and they wanted to beat the crap out of him. And it's real hard to beat the crap out of a walking refrigerator. He was an Olympic powerlifter, but I mean, they were tired of it. And, you know, then I'd go to court and ask, you know, the judge. I'd say, well, you know, jail's not going to do him any good. Let's get him some help. And so there was 3 places to go to. There's like one in Colorado, one in Utah, and then Camarillo, California, the big hospital out there. And they're more, you know, long-term type care. And so, you know, most of the time I could convince the judge to send him to care instead of jail. But sometimes he went to the jail and he was just worse. And you could get anything you want in jail, any drug, any cigarettes, candy bars, like Hershey bars were $10 in jail. And you could trade them for stuff. And he told me all this stuff. But, I mean, I would go up there, see him, and he was just mean. He was just mean. He's like, take your wedding ring off. And, I mean, just mean. And I would cry when I leave. I was like, you know, I waited hours to get in to see him and show my license, all that other crap, and go through search, and then wait, you know, hours to wait to talk to him at a class booth with a telephone, and a officer standing over, and there was like, I think 10 glass booths, and then sit there for about 5 or 7 minutes, whatever it is. And it was just the most saddest thing. But I kept going. I cared. And, you know, I had that thing of love will conquer all. And it just got bad. One day, total embarrassment, my dad happened to be driving by and saw a scene of my husband bashing the car up in the middle of the road in a very nice area in California. And I was dressed to the T, a white 2-piece suit and heels, and a lovely California day, and my husband is going crazy. And my dad and I went back. He said, well, you need to go get the car. And I said, well, I don't think so. He said, well, I would. And he said, I don't think he's doing much. We walked back over there, and Bill was passed out on his back with his eyes glazed and by the car. And my dad says, just take the car. I said, okay. So I got in the car, followed him over to the house, and we talked for an hour or so. And he said, you know, it's not working. And I said, well, I mean, you know, it takes time, and he'll get better, and, you know, I'm trying to help him, and, you know, love will conquer all. And my dad's like, no, it won't. I'm like, oh, yes, it will. You just don't have faith and all that. And you know, here's my dad. It took me a while to figure out that he was just absolutely brilliant. But I already kind of knew my dad was like 98% right all the time. I already knew that, but I just thought that, you know, I could do better than him, and I didn't. I was beating my damn head against the wall on a situation that I couldn't fix. Why couldn't I fix it? Well, one, I'm not a doctor. Wasn't then, not now. And two, you know, love can't conquer all. It's just not what it is. Some things can be fixed by medical of some sort, and some things will never be fixed. People have it till the day they die. Unfortunately, Bill West had it till the day he died. The doctors told me that he had some underlying thing that he needed to sort out. And I knew a lot of his past and stuff when he grew up, and he went through some really horrible things as a kid. Like, his dad or his uncle used to punish him by making him stand on the card table while all the guys were playing cards, and he had to stand there naked, and then they burned their cigarettes into him. And I'm like, whoa. And he was just, I mean, a young kid. And he ran away from Philadelphia when he was like 12 or something, and jumped on with the circus, really and truly, with like Barnum and Bailey Circus. And started by, you know, cleaning animals and stuff, and traveled with the circus across the states to California. I thought, yeah, right, this is a real story. But no, it really was. He had pictures of it and stuff too. And just so he could get away. He had nothing, not a penny in his pocket. Had no way to figure out how to feed himself. And he was Hungarian, Lithuanian Jew. And then he started, you know, pumping iron and made friends, and then competing, and then he would win these competitions and get money and stuff. And then he built the equipment at the Venice weight pen before it was moved to Venice from Santa Monica. And but he was a mess, and I thought I could fix it. I really did. Love will conquer all. So I beat my head against the wall for, I don't know what, about 3 years or something. And left him, then took him back. They had sent him to jail or Camarillo. He'd done Camarillo a couple times long term. They'd sent him to one or the other for a real long term. And I was like, I'm just done. You know, I'm just absolutely done. Because, you know, it was just too much. It was like dragging a stick through the mud, or dragging anchor. You can't do it all. And then what happens, you end up responsible for their kids, their animals, their place, whatever, while they're away. And you just really, you know, it's just so much to handle. And, oh, well, I got to drive like that. I'm in a parking space. And, so, anyway, it just, I thought I was doing just the right thing, and I was such a good-hearted, wonderful person for being kind to somebody and having faith, and, you know, that love just would conquer all. I'm telling you, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. It was one of the toughest things I ever did in my life, I think, or one of them, trying to fix that. Trying to fix Bill West. And when he passed away, we were not together. But it was sad, but I knew it was going to happen. You can only abuse your body so much. He finally quit everything. And then his body shut down and he died like 6 months later. When he really decided to straighten out. He wore his body out through all those years doing that stupid stuff. And that's a sad way to go, especially when you're an icon in time. But love couldn't conquer all. I couldn't fix it. And the reason I couldn't fix it was just like my dad said, you can't fix it. Love doesn't fix it. You know, you can't fix it. You're not a doctor. So you can't, babysit that. You're a grown person. I don't care how old you were when you left home, whatever. You just entered the adult life. And you have to live with it. There's usually no going back. So you have to stand up for yourself, and you got to fight for yourself, and do the right things. And I wasted a lot of time trying to do the right thing to make somebody better. He would have been the perfect man if he'd have been straightened out. But, at times he would mess up, and it just was exactly the wrong time. I remember saying, Bill, please don't screw this up. Please. And then, it would be like a flip of a coin. He might not. I mean, he wrote checks on my checking account that were no good for liquor and stuff. I would run across a $200 check in my statement for liquor from the liquor store down the street, and I'd be going, $200? I mean, it was just sickening. It just, you can't fix it. You're not God, you're not a doctor. You can have all the love in the world, but you can't fix it. That person has to fix it. That person has to admit that person needs a treatment, whether it be medical or counseling, the chemicals, whatever it is, or change of lifestyle. That person has to fix it with professionals. People that went to school to learn how to try to fix that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of people in the world who have chemical imbalance. I don't. I know a lot of people in my lifetime that have. And it's a tough life for some of them. They don't like taking the drugs. They like to be healthy, da-da-da-da. But, you gotta do what you want to do if you don't want to be in jail. It's sort of like a drug addict. They do bad stuff until they get off the dope, and then they realize all the damage they did, and they have no friends left. I know somebody right now that's trying to help somebody that's messed up bad. Seriously messed up, that won't take their medicine, and they're to the point of psycho all the time. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of getting text messages and calls, and with them carrying on like, this guy's my boyfriend or something, which is not. He's, my brother for a million years. And, I told him, I said, when she keeps getting a hold of your phone, going through all the people, which she does, she'll send group messages and all kinds of weird crap and get off in these different rants. And he's like, she has 10 different personalities. And I named them all. And I'm like, you need to get away from that. I mean, you could be dead. I mean, you can't predict this person. They're just so far out of it because they won't take their chemicals. And her relative is a big-time lawyer in Alabama that I know. And he won't even help her for any reason. She's got some legal things right now she needs to deal with. He won't get near her. She's cuckoo. And I had told this guy, I said, you can't fix it. I'm like, is she your girlfriend? No. She's just a, Christian person I'm trying to help. And I'm like, well, you can't do it. I'm telling you, you cannot do it. It takes a real live psychological doctor and chemicals and stuff, or they just need to lock her up if she can't stay on those chemicals. Because this girl's really scary. I mean, she backed into, like, hit it in reverse to the people across the street, the house across the street, and almost killed them. And they handcuffed her and then let her out the next day because she's loony and she's not taking her medicine. I mean, that's just, how would you like it if you were living in that house and all of a sudden, you stepped out the door to go to your car or water the lawn or something, and the freaking neighbor right across the street's got the car floored in reverse and it's headed right for you. That'd be pretty bad. It'd be like every time I came out the front door, I'd have to make sure to look and see if it was safe to get out. I mean, that's just scary. But I told him, I said, you can't babysit it. And I said, you're going to drive all your friends away. And he says, well, if they bail on me because of her getting a hold of my phone and sending messages or calling or doing whatever, and she gets mean. She sends "I hate you" messages, all kinds of crazy crap. And it'll be 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And it's just like, oh my God. And she'll go on forever. And I say, well, I'm going to tell you that, you may think your friends are friends, but they can only put up with so much. And you're just going to lose every friend you've got trying to help somebody that's totally wacko. And I said, I really think she needs to be in long-term care for the rest of her life. She cannot take those chemicals. She needs to be in long-term care because she's not safe on the streets. She's dangerous. I mean, that's just absolutely scary. And I'm sure she's not the only one in the world like that. I mean, I'm sure that's a lot of the reason why these weird shootings and killings go on. And I saw one yesterday that it was a real old-timey post on an internet thing. And it was like it happened yesterday. It didn't. It happened years ago. And it's some guy that shot his daughter and 6 kids, and then called 911 to tell him, and then said, so make sure you send an officer, and then, when they come, then I'm going to kill myself. And he was like, oh boy. Which he did. That's a whole lot of lives to lose, and one of the children was 2.5 months old. Yeah. That's terrible. I guess they were all his daughter's kids because I said grandchildren. But, like I was telling this guy, yesterday, I said, you can't fix it. You're not a doctor. And love does not conquer all. It takes so much out of you. And, because you're now worrying and babysitting another individual that needs very serious help.